Thank you everyone for coming back so promptly from our lunch break. We have a fantastic lineup here today with 4 different speakers, with 5 speakers, 4 papers to be presented. So starting off, we have Joseph Vancell from the University of Malta. Joseph, I'm going to flip the timer in a moment. When you have their assignment, I will give you a 5-minute warning and then again a 1-minute warning. So Joseph, the floor is yours.
Okay. Right. What's an old man doing on a slide? This morning we all witnessed presentations that raised the eye. Presentations that said that AI are changing the world. We should move towards its direction. We should include them in university. And yes, we should. Yes, we should. However, there are some critical points we must do. Some critical thought about what is happening. Let me give you an example. After I finish this, and after I finish my paper, the government of Malta has given access to ChatGPT to all. All Maltese citizens now have full access of the higher tier of ChatGPT. And ask, why ChatGPT? Because we are dealing with corporate America, where they want to sell things. And ChatGPT is for sale, like anthropogenic, like Google, Gemini. You will not go to such conferences where speakers talk about DeepSeek, for example, which is as good as ChatGPT, but it comes with the Chinese implementation. Am I wrong? So let's look at what this great thinker, and why this great thinker. My father was a dry dock worker. He died my age. Due to poisons that he inhaled in welding, through welding. He inhaled a lot of lead, which ruined his head. Why am I bringing up my father? Because my father was my first philosopher. He made me love who the worker is. He made me think about oppressive situations. And that love I carried through my life. Okay, I read a lot of work about Paulo, Freire. Some of it is mentioned in this paper, which is, by the way, not an empirical research. This does not contain empirical data. It's not even a systematic literature review. It's built on my story, based dealing with Paulo Freire and this new generation. Malta has, like many European countries, an economy based on small and medium-sized enterprises, small and SMEs. Okay? And like all of Europe, most of these SMEs, 95% of these SMEs are micro enterprises. So these micro enterprises employ less than 10%, making a turnover of around 2 billion, 2 million euro. Why am I stating that? Because 99% of the economy in Europe is created by SMEs, believe it or not. 99%. 99% of the employment providers are SMEs. So one of my big questions when I started working with adults, with adult learners, is how to take the mountain of education to the learners. How can I get them skilled? How can I get them skilled today in AI? Because without AI, they won't be heading to new pastures. AI is an extremely important development, but it must be harnessed with care. It must be harnessed. One of the issues that is emerging today after 3 years reading about the praises of AI and education, we now have the other side of the coin, what we call cognitive download, offloading. Where students are becoming what's the word? They rely heavily on AI, and you can smell it afar away when you're correcting the sedation and creation of pieces. It smells of AI. Even papers. The first sentence of any paper today is that AI is changing the world. Which may be true, which may be not. So let's look at AI from a critical lens, a real critical lens, which has been with us since the 1970s. A critical lens that was developed by Paulo Freire, the Brazilian Paulo Freire, who worked with peasants, who wanted his peasants to become literate so that they can read the word before reading the world. Knowing what is there to change it. Right. So how can we embrace technology that is that can either reinforce oppression? Now, I'm not only talking about peasants here, but even our students at university level. How can we reinforce, use AI to either reinforce oppression or to challenge it for liberation? And I will start with this famous quote by Paulo Freire. Paulo Freire, his most famous work is Pedagogy of the Oppressed. It's not as good as it's, the English version is not as good as its Portuguese, they tell me, because I know nothing of Portuguese. For Freire, well, he said, I consider the theme of the epoch to be that of domination. To be that of domination. But if there is domination, there is the struggle for liberation. which implies its opposite. That is the theme of liberation as the objective to be achieved. In order to achieve humanization, which presupposes the elimination of dehumanization, oppression of dehumanizing oppression, it is absolutely necessary to surmount the limit situations in which people are reduced to things. This morning, someone mentioned gamma. Okay, this was produced through. I created this script and the gamma in a minute or two produce things. Okay, but you don't have to pay because after the first presentation, you must pay for it. Okay, again, for okay, they're looking to make money. They want. So before we look critically at AI, we must say that Freire is no technophobe. Okay, some authors classify Freire as being a technophobe, as being afraid of technology. He was not. He wasn't. In his cultural circles, with peasants, okay, he used old Polish projectors, in which he projected against the peasants' walls, household walls, codified themes in which they tried to feel reality. They tried to understand the oppression that they are living. So he was not a technophobe. Indeed, he used in his cultural circles projectors that codified to project codified pictures on peasants' houses. For this work, he was exiled. Okay, he was kicked out of Brazil by the junta. He went to Geneva, spent some years in Geneva, then came back, and he was made Secretary of Education. Okay. When he was one of the first to invest a lot of money on simple computers. So, by all means, he was not a techno. Yet, he was not techno-determinist.
In 5 minutes, just a warning.
Already? Okay. Right. In a recent survey in America, 71% of students who answered the survey said that they are using ChatGPT. 71% is a really high number. Okay. Okay, core principles which we should be thinking about when we're talking about Freire and AI. Banking instead of problem posing, okay, versus problem posing, conscientization, dialogue, and humanization. Praxis, okay, the unity of reflection and action. All work must have a real out practice. A reflection using using AI to change the world. some authors are talking about Gen AI, generative AI as banking model number two. Okay, the banking proviso comes from Paulo Freire. Okay, this is the what's being given by AI. Is it packaged knowledge, which the corporations are offering us, thereby increasing our oppression towards the knowledge that is present. So, through AI and according to Paulo Freire's work, we should be looking at the hidden power. Okay, this is not only ethics, eh? This is not only ethics. AI produces knowledge. Where does this knowledge come from? We have to let our students know that knowledge does come from someone. It's not created by AI. So there is algorithm bias, and at times AI, as my colleagues said, we dialogue is displaced. Instead of getting into real dialogue with real persons, we get to dialogue with AI. Okay, we must not tell our students that they should be aware. Okay, they should be. So, and I will stop here. Okay. How can generative AI be used for liberation? Okay, we must instill a problem posed. This is not mine, this is Freire. Okay, we must use AI, okay, for problem posing inquiry to enhance problem posing. We should also use AI to reveal bias. Extending dialogue and enabling practice. What happens on the screen must happen out there. Okay? So, my last word here, from passive consumption of knowledge, created even through the best prompts in AI, to critical inquiry. Okay? And that's my presentation. Thanks.
One or two questions if anyone wants to put them to Joseph. Yeah, please.
I don't have a question actually. I want to thank you for your presentation. It was very nice to make. I have a comment as you are talking about the banking model of the education, and this will be for the passive learners, but we are looking for the active learners. So this is maybe sometimes.
What do you mean by active versus passive?
Passive, those students who receive the information just when we put in them the information by the teacher without let them to think.
That's a dangerous situation.
This could be a model when we use the AI models without doing the critical thinking. This is the,
Yeah.
I think of what's this thing.
Yes, I agree, but even the active, what we call active students may get into the trust. So we must, that's our role as teachers.
It's for both, yes.
Yep. Yes,
I think it's interesting distinction you made around a passive learner and an active learner. And I think one of the comments that you made, or one of the points that you made, Joseph, around that the question of power and interrogating power. And I think, I know that we're not supposed to make political comments, but how can you have a conversation about AI, talking about corporate America without talking about power and the flow of power and the flow of knowledge at an international level? And so, you know, I think that I like the way that you framed it, that this is more than an
I
ethical
did not
question.
frame it, it's Freire.
Sorry, Ferreira.
If he were still alive, he would be against or critically against online learning.
Well,
And
what I
very,
would like to say
and
is,
very cautious
Yeah.
of AI. Very cautious. He would not, who, I'm sure that he will not just say that AI is a big, like
Okay,
Chomsky did.
we're going to have to wrap that up there in the,
Okay.
because we have 4 speakers to get